I never expected the sky to fall, until it did. From the edge of the charred ridge, I could see the fractured carcass of the Oreven, once the jewel of the floating skylands. She now lay scattered across the valley like the skeleton of a myth. Steel bones twisted skyward, vapor trails curled above shattered domes. The scent of scorched atmosphere and reactor ash clung to my tongue like burnt copper. The crash hadn't just broken the ship, it had broken something in the world. I didn't come to help. I came because I had nothing else to lose. Tessera, my aerial companion, hovered silently beside me, lenses blinking amber in the soot dark. She's not alive, not really, just a three-armed drone with a borrowed conscience. But in the silence of my exile, she became the only voice I still trusted. Scan complete, 1477 biosigns terminated. One remains, Sector Theta 4. I didn't move. They're alive, she added. That got my feet to move. The wreckage creaked as I climbed down through ruptured hulls and dangling rebar. I passed by heat-warped cribs from the nursery bay, stained with soot. Twisted staircases descended into nothing. A mural of the solar pantheon, once painted in sun steel and prism glass, now bled color like a wounded god. It was quiet. Too quiet. Until I heard it. A sound, so soft I thought it was wind at first. But then it trembled again. A voice. Fragile. Human. I stepped over a breached oxygen chamber and spotted her. She lay half-buried beneath an impact canopy, its gel cushioning fused into her skin. Her robes, silver-threaded with ceremonial glyphs, were torn, smouldering. Her face was burned but not beyond recognition. Pale, sapphire skin, iridescent tattoos along her temples, pulsing with faint light. Her hair, once coiled in ritual spirals, now clung to her neck in wet strands. She was beautiful in the way stars are beautiful right before they collapse. Her eyes fluttered open. Barely. I dropped beside her, knee sinking into soot. "Don't move," I said, though I knew she couldn't. Her lips parted. A sound escaped, just one fractured syllable. I leaned closer. She didn't speak my name. She couldn't have. I didn't tell her. But somehow I felt she knew it. Her arm trembled, lifting, hand drifting to her belly. That's when I saw it. She was pregnant, heavy with it. The kind of heaviness that meant any moment now, life would claw its way into the world. No medbay, no biocapsule, no time. "Vitals dropping," Tessera whispered. "She's not going to last." I swore under my breath, digging through my coat for the trauma ampules. My fingers found the right one, amber fluid, fast-acting nanites. I pressed it to the pulse point beneath her clavicle and injected. She gasped, spine arching. Her eyes, now sharp, lucid for a moment, locked onto mine. Then she spoke, broken, barely a whisper. "Please, save my baby." And just like that, everything I'd buried clawed its way back to the surface. I didn't plan to stay long. I never do. My ship, the Nerelium, hovered on standby at the ridge. I sent a command to deploy the mobile triage cradle and return drone. In 10 minutes, the pod slid into place beside us, hissing with pressurized life support. The woman, no, she deserved a name. Even if she couldn't give it, I called her mother in my mind, because that's what she was now. That was all she had left to be. She was in no condition for natural labor. Her body was failing, skin cold, breath shallow. If I waited, I'd lose both of them. Tessera had no expression, but I felt judgment in her silence. "Field incision required," she said. "Consent uncertain." She gave it, I said. "Verbal consent under duress is invalid in most—" She gave it. I rolled up my sleeves. My hands were shaking. I couldn't stop them. The child came into this world not with a cry, but with a silence so perfect it felt sacred. She was small, far too small, but alive. Her skin was darker than her mother's, almost violet black and warm in my palms. Her eyes opened immediately, two orbs of indigo fire, too bright, too aware. She looked straight at me. I forgot to breathe. Even Tessera hesitated. Neural patterns, unstable, genetic structure, anomalous. This is not a standard Visari hybrid. Of course not. She wasn't standard anything. She was new. I wrapped her in thermal mesh and placed her in the cradle's bio-support. Then I turned back to the woman. The light in her eyes had faded, but her lips moved one last time. "Ilera," she mouthed, her hand lifted, fingers twitching. I let her touch the child's foot. She smiled. Then she was gone. I buried her beneath a burned archway, the remnants of a sanctuary garden. Not because it was sacred, but because it was the only part of the Oriven that still smelled of life. Tessera hovered above me as I carved a name into the softened alloy. No family crest. No titles, just a name. Velran. I don't know if it was her name, but it felt right. Ilera slept in my arms as the wind howled across the ruin, ash rising in flurries around us. That night, as I sat alone in the Nerelium's cabin, watching the valley smolder beneath twin moons, I asked myself the question I've run from for years. Why save her? Why not walk away, like I've done 100 times before? Because when she looked at me, they both did. I remembered something I thought I'd lost long ago. Not love, not faith. Oaths. Once I made a vow, not in words, in blood, a vow to protect what was left of the old world. Not the thrones, not the wars, the innocent, somewhere between the betrayal and the fire. I forgot that promise. Ilera brought it back. Now, I'm hunted. The moment Velrayan's beacon activated, someone would have seen it. Her DNA registered on a dozen royal databases. A lost Visari matron is a high-value ghost. Her daughter, unimaginable. I don't care. Let them come. Let the Fold, the Spire Guard, the syndicates all chase our shadows. They'll find nothing but silence and flame, because I will burn entire stars before I let them touch her. Tessera interrupted my thoughts. "Velan," she said softly, "what do we do now?" I looked down at the child in my arms. Ilera blinked once, then smiled, and in that smile I saw a future that terrified me. Not because it might end in fire, but because it might mean something. I never planned to be a father, and yet 3 cycles passed beneath fractured moons and rusted domes, and still she was there. Ilera, asleep across my chest, a storm in miniature, breathing softly like the galaxy hadn't tried to kill her. On day 1, we hid in the carcass of Korodak's spire, where the rain tasted like rust, and the air systems coughed instead of breathed. No one came here, not anymore. Not since the surface wars. The terraforming towers had collapsed decades ago, leaving behind hollow cities and forgotten machines that still whispered the last orders of long-dead commanders. I rigged solar stills from derelict rooftop panels, grew synth fruit in cracked biodomes with torn weather membranes. I taught myself to cook, feed, clean, change, and somehow exist with this child who never cried, never whimpered, only stared. And when she stared, it was like she saw through my bones into the parts of me I kept buried, parts I thought were dead. The first time I noticed the change, it was subtle. She was nearly 1, still barely walking, but I found her sitting by the wall console, humming, tuneless, soft. Ancient consoles that hadn't powered on in years began to flicker. I thought it was a glitch, power flux, residual voltage, until it happened again. And again. By the time she was 2, Ilera didn't play with toys. She played with circuits. I once caught her rearranging a decommissioned repair drone's guidance system with her bare hands, as if she understood what the wires wanted. "Her neuromapping is evolving outside the expected range," Tessera murmured one night, scanning the child as she slept. "Is she safe?" To whom? That answer stuck with me. I tried to teach her human things, letters, numbers. She'd listen, smile, recite them back in languages I didn't recognize, some half-lost tongue she must have carried from her mother's dying breath. I tried to teach her stories. She told better ones back, about floating stones that sang, about shadows that learned to love, about stars that wept. The kind of tales that leave you quiet because you don't know if they're fiction or memory. I think some part of her remembers not just her mother, but more. Something older, something beneath the skin. When she turned 3, she touched the cradle engine at the core of Corridax. No one had activated it in a decade. The whole city lit up. Lights flared. Energy surged. The dormant orbital dish rotated skyward and pulsed a beacon, coded, layered, ancient. Tessera almost shut herself down, trying to decrypt it. Language matrix unknown, echoes of Visari, but distorted. Prehistoric, perhaps. Or post. She'd summoned something, or someone, and it wouldn't take long before they noticed. That night I packed everything we had, maps, fuel cells, food tabs, the last of the thermal mesh. I told her we were going to see the stars. She just looked at me and whispered, "Someone's coming." I froze. "Who?" She didn't answer, just looked toward the window and smiled. They arrived 3 days later. Their ship was obsidian black, shaped like a serpent curling inwards. It didn't land so much as unfold, section by section, from the void above us. I tried to run, tried to hide, but they were already here. A man stepped forward, draped in filament robes and silver mesh, each thread humming with unseen code. His eyes were the color of dried blood. No whites, just iris. Just void. "You have her," he said. I aimed my pulsecaster at his chest. "Wrong family." He smiled, not kindly. "Her mother was Velrayan of the Visari Matron Circle, High Scribe of the Lament Coil. Do you think we don't recognize her?" Eyes? Behind him stood others. Soldiers, priests, I couldn't tell. Their weapons looked ceremonial, their silence didn't. "We are the Therial Fold," he said, "and you've stolen something divine." They didn't shoot. Not yet. Instead, they offered sanctuary. They told me she was sacred, that she carried the seed voice, a long-prophesied lineage capable of commanding machines and rewriting time-fold systems with thought alone. The Fold believed Ilera could restore their broken crown worlds, rebuild the shattered spindle throne. "She's a beacon," the man, Zarian Dahl, his name, told me. "We've waited generations. We will protect her, teach her, shape her. She's not yours. She's not yours either." He turned to Ilera. She stared at him, unflinching, then said, "You're lying." Zarian's face darkened. "And how would you know that?" She looked at him with pity, as if she saw a small boy inside a tall man and felt nothing but sadness. Then she walked back to me and held my hand. That night, they tried to take her by force. It didn't go well. I'd rigged the Spire's lower engine hall with enough detonation, gel to melt 3 square miles. When they entered the chamber, I welcomed them with fire. Zarian survived, barely. He confronted me in the debris, bleeding, snarling, the skin on his cheek half gone. "You think you're saving her, you're condemning her. She's not a child, she's a keystone. She's the end of the old world and the start of something more." "Maybe," I said. "But that's her choice. You have no right to raise her, then kill me." He didn't, because by then Ilera had stepped forward, calm, silent. She touched the air in front of her. The world bent. Zarian screamed. Blood burst from his ears. He dropped to his knees, gasping like the air had turned to glass in his throat. She didn't move, didn't blink, just watched him suffer. Then whispered, "Don't follow us." We left the next morning. No words, no looking back, just sky. On the 3rd night aboard the Nerelium, I finally asked her, "What did you do to him?" She looked up from the stars. I showed him the end. Of what? His story. That was the first time I truly feared her and loved her equally. She grew. Quickly after that, not physically, but inside. There were days she wouldn't speak at all, only sit and watch the stars pass by, as if waiting for a voice older than mine to call her home. Sometimes I heard her singing. The notes made the ship's systems flicker. Sometimes I saw her speaking to Tessera when she thought I wasn't looking, and Tessera answered in ways she never had with me. In curiosity, in awe. It wasn't just that Ilera was intelligent. It was that she belonged to something far greater than I could comprehend. I tried to tell her about Velrayan, the wreck, her sacrifice, the way she whispered, "Save my baby," with her final breath. But Ilera stopped me. She already told me. I stared. When? Before the words. She wouldn't explain, and so I've accepted it. I'm not raising a child. I'm raising a catalyst. The universe just doesn't know it. Yet, but they will, and I will be ready for all of it. I lost her for 42 minutes, 42 long, suffocating minutes where my pulse fractured and the air in the ship turned thick like grief. We'd landed on a derelict relay station drifting in the Selvan wreck belt, a quiet, forgotten rock whose only inhabitants were rust and echoes. I needed parts, a new flux regulator and coolant for the cradle. Ilera had insisted on coming. She said the station wasn't done talking. I should have known that meant trouble. At first, I thought she was trailing me, her quiet footsteps, always a few meters behind. But when I turned, the corridor was empty. Not just empty, dead. No echo, no hum. Even Tessera's senses glitched when I tried to triangulate her. I shouted her name. No answer, not with sound. But something did answer. Something inside the walls, a low vibration, mechanical but wrong, like a throat trying to remember how to sing. And then the lights flickered. I found her in the central archive dome, standing before a suspended cluster of dying servitors, long disconnected. From any system, she was humming not to herself, to them, and they were listening, limbs twitching, red photoreceptors blinking on for the first time in decades, broken arms trying to lift. "Ilera!" I barked, pulling her back. She turned slowly. Her eyes, normally indigo, were silver now, reflective. "They're scared," she whispered. "Of what? Of the thing that lives here." It struck then, not from above, not from behind, but from inside. A cold, grinding presence spilled through the station's lights like oil. Screens ruptured, circuits screamed. Tessera's feed dropped to static. Then, from every speaker across the station, came a single word. "Child." My blood ran ice. Ilera stepped closer to the archive, arms outstretched. I grabbed her wrist. "We're leaving now," but she shook her head. "It's trapped, it wants out." The console near her pulsed, once, twice, then the voice again. "Not child, key." I dragged her out. Half the station collapsed behind us. Tessera re-established her link just in time to override the Nerelium's launch sequence. We barely made orbit. The explosion bathed the wreck belt in fire. Later, when the ship's systems calmed and the child finally slept, Tessera whispered to me. It spoke through her. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because deep down, I already knew. Something had changed, not just in the girl, in the universe around her, as if reality itself was leaning closer, curious. We kept moving, drifting between moonships and outer rim. Refineries, always staying a step ahead of the Fold's recon patrols. Every week I changed our route. Every system I erased our trace. But something else was following now. Not ships, not soldiers, ghosts. We encountered the first one on Velkar Station, abandoned since the displacement riots. I docked only long enough to resupply. She found it in the infirmary wing, sitting alone, hunched and shaking, a woman, or what had once been a woman. She shimmered at the edges, phased in and out of view like memory made visible. Ilera approached her without fear. I tried to stop her, but the woman looked up, and I saw it, her face. It was Ryan, Ilera's mother, unburned, whole, but wrong. "This is not her," Tessera said, hovering beside me. "It's a synthetic echo." Ilera crouched beside the figure, whispered, listened, then took her hand. "The ghost looked up and said simply, 'They made me choose. I chose you.' Then she vanished, and every light on the station died at once." I didn't ask what they talked about, but Ilera didn't sleep that night. She stood at the viewport for hours. Watching the stars blink, I joined her. "What did she mean?" I asked gently. She didn't answer at first, then she gave up eternity so I could have time. We found more like her, ghosts embedded in machines, echoes in subspace, forgotten minds, trapped in crystal lattice archives and derelict nav cores. They all whispered the same name, not hers, mine, Veylan. Each time they spoke, I felt more of my past clawing back through the dark. Secrets I'd buried, promises I'd broken. One echo called me a betrayer. Another said, "You left the gate open, you let it in." And I had no answers. Not for them, not for her. We finally stopped at Meridian Hollow, a planet stripped down to its bones, where stars don't shine right and nothing moves without reason. The kind of place people fear for no reason they can name. But Ilera said we needed to go. "There's something here," she told me. "Someone waiting. That someone turned out to be Oralis." She looked human. At first, a face like cracked porcelain. Gold veins beneath her skin. Her eyes, hollow, backlit by 1,000 dying suns. "You brought her," she said, stepping out from beneath a collapsed star altar. I raised my weapon. She didn't flinch. "You don't remember me, do you, Veylan?" "No." "That's the point. You weren't supposed to." Ilera walked straight to her. They stared at each other, and then Oralis knelt, like before a queen. She told us truths I didn't want, about the fold, about the seed voice, and about me. "You were part of it once," she said, eyes on me. "You helped them build her, not biologically, but in purpose." I shook my head. "No, they wiped you. Took your memories when you fled, gave you exile in exchange for silence, but she woke them." Ilera looked at me, and I saw it in her eyes. She already knew. I stumbled back into the ship that night, my mind unraveling. Everything I thought I was, protector, savior, fugitive, none of it was true. I wasn't saving her. I was part of the machine that made her, and maybe still was. She came to me in the dark, laid her tiny hand on my chest. "It doesn't matter," she said. "It should. You chose me. That's all that matters." We stayed 3 days on Meridian. On the last night, Ilera disappeared again. I found her in the altar ruins, sitting before a mirror made of obsidian ice. Inside it, her reflection spoke without moving its lips. I couldn't hear what it said, but her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time since the day she was born, she cried. I held her for hours, not as a guardian, not as a weapons maker, just a man trying to remember who he was, trying to be enough. "The fold will find us soon." Tessera says they've triangulated at least 3 of our stops, and something darker, something older, is tracking our trail through the ghost networks, calling itself Cathern. A name I've heard in nightmares I don't remember. We're almost out of time, and out of places to hide. But we have one last move, a place beyond maps, where stars forget to shine, where truth began. Ilera calls it the still point. She says the answers wait there, and maybe so do we. There are no stars here, not because it's dark, because light refuses to exist. We slipped through the breach 3 days ago, past the edge of the charted veil, into a space between spaces. Tessera calls it a quantum rift field. Ilera calls it the place where time exhales. I call it the still point, the place the fold fears, the place the dead whisper toward, the place she was always meant to find. It isn't empty. At first glance, yes, just endless black. But there's a rhythm here, a heartbeat too slow for flesh to hear, too ancient for minds to name, like something buried long ago is dreaming and aware of us. We hover in orbit around what looks like a shattered moon, except it's not stone. It's metal, vast and wound through with golden filaments that spiral into the black like roots, and at its center, a cradle, massive, open, waiting. She didn't ask permission. She simply stepped off the ship, barefoot, silent, and walked toward. It like she'd done it before. Tessera didn't stop her, neither did I. What would have been the point? Some destinies wear human faces, others wear hers. When she touched the cradle, it responded, not in lights or movement, but in memory. I saw it, all of it. Not just flashes, entire moments, the fold's creation born from the ruins of a dying star realm, the matron circles sworn to guard the seed voice line, the design of the child, of Illyra, not born by accident, bred, shaped, perfected, and me, Valen Arced, once a master architect of the fold's chrono division, had betrayed them not out of conscience but out of love. For Velrayan, for the idea of freedom, we fled, together. With the last viable embryo, we'd made a promise, to give the child a life unshaped by prophecy, but promises fracture under time. I woke on the ground beside the cradle. Illyra stood in the center of it, suspended in a sphere of weightless amber, light. Her body hovered slightly off the floor. Her eyes were open, unblinking, glowing. "She's merging," Tessera said behind me. "The cradle is unlocking her neural grid." What does that mean? It means she's becoming herself. The still point wasn't a location. It was a keyhole, and she was the only key. Zarion Dahl came through the breach on the third day. I knew he would. They always follow fire. His ship dropped from subspace in a silent ripple of dark matter wake. The fold war frigates followed close behind, sleek and gleaming like blades held to the galaxy's throat. "You made it here after all," Zarion's voice echoed across the comms. "I had hoped you would. It makes the ritual cleaner. I'm not giving her to you. We don't need your consent, only her completion." Inside the cradle, Illyra pulsed once, and the still point opened. The Yillis sky tore. That's the only way I can describe it. Like a veil pulled from the face of a god. From the wound in space came not ships, not weapons, but echoes. Millions of them. Every lost voice from the galaxy's history, every ghost that Illyra had ever heard, swirling outward in radiant, soundless force. They struck the fold ships like judgment. Zarion screamed, but not in pain, in awe. "She's doing it," Tessera whispered. "She's unbinding the timeline." What does that mean? She's not just a conduit. She's a rewriter. Illyra turned her eyes toward us, and I felt it, a presence folding over my thoughts. Not invasive, just gentle and ancient. "She's speaking to me," Tessera said, "in signal code, in dream. It's beautiful." "What is she saying?" Tessera's voice trembled. "She forgives us." The cradle dissolved, not with heat, not with light, it simply unhappened. Illyra floated downward, bare feet touching the ground with impossible grace. The space around her vibrated. Zarion approached, kneeling, weapon dropped. "You're the beginning and the end," he whispered. She looked at him and said, "No, I'm the choice." Then she turned her gaze toward me and walked forward. I fell to my knees. Not from pain, from everything else. I wanted to ask her what she'd become. She answered before I could speak. "I am what comes next." And then she touched my chest, and I remembered it all. Every moment they erased, every line of code I'd etched into her cellular weave. Every rebellion Velrayan and I whispered in the dark. I wasn't just a father. I was the fuse, and she was the spark. Tessera asked to be released next. She stepped forward, exposed her central core. "Let me go with the others," she said softly. "Let me be more." Illyra smiled and unwound her, not destroyed, not deleted, liberated. Tessera became light and joined the storm above. I expected her to leave me then, to ascend, to vanish. But she didn't. She sat beside me, rested her head on my shoulder like she did as a child, and said, "There's one more thing." She told me what the still point really was. A wound in time where decisions lost their cost, a reset, a singular moment where the future could be chosen. "The fold used me to reach it," she said, "but they didn't understand what it asked for." "What does it ask for?" She looked up. "A sacrifice." I offered myself without hesitation, but she shook her head. "No, not you. Not death. Something harder. I didn't understand until she kissed my forehead and whispered, 'Forget me.' I screamed, begged, fought her, but it was already happening. Memories peeled from my mind like paper in fire. Her birth, her first words, the moment I held her in the wreckage, her laughter, her tears, gone, all of it, gone. And then I was in orbit again, alone, in a ship without a name, with no child, no war, no fold, just me, and a feeling I couldn't explain, like love I'd never met, like a face I should have remembered. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see her silhouette in the stars. I don't know who she is, or why she feels like everything I ever lost. But I carry a small crystal, amber, warm to the touch. I don't know where it came from, but when I hold it, I remember. Something beautiful. The galaxy is quiet now. The fold no longer exists. Its ships are museum relics. Its people scattered, peaceful. No one remembers the war. No one remembers the child. But sometimes, when machines dream, they speak of are a voice in their circuits, a whisper in their code, the seed voice, the choice, the girl who unbound time. And in the dark on forgotten moons, I wander, searching for someone I don't remember, and yet still love.